You're watching ESPN's Feast Week, presented by Lowe's.
Welcome to the SEC on ESPN, a part of Feast Week presented by Lowe's. The Providence Friars have come on the road to take on the powerful, #1 ranked Kentucky Wildcats from packed, sold-out Rupp Arena here in Lexington, Kentucky. Starting lineups as we are just a moment away from tip. First for the Friars, undefeated 6-0. Chris Dunn, who's been banged up, is in the starting lineup. He will play. Kyron Cartwright, LaDante Henton, one of the top scorers in the country, Tyler Harris, and Carson DeRozier, the 5 for the Friars. Meanwhile, for #1 Kentucky, this is their first 5. Their starting 5. We'll talk a lot about the depth, the platoon system. Harrison, Poitras, Towns, and Willie Cauley-Stein. Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla, happy to have you with us. Rupp Arena is packed. They are ready to go and could not be more excited about this #1 ranked Wildcats team.
When you watch Kentucky, a lot of people looking for chinks in the armor. To me, it's about chasing greatness. The start they're off to, especially on the defensive end, Dave, has been outstanding.
And they look like the #1 team and then some through these first few weeks of the season. There's Towns, the ultra-talented freshman, wide open, and he makes the first basket of the game.
Always has had that in his arsenal. In fact, he's grown into more of a low-post player early in his Kentucky career.
So now the Friars have the ball for the first time. Cartwright, the freshman, gives it up to Chris Dunn. Great news for Providence that he is healthy enough to play this game. He's a difference maker.
Well, he is. He's a big, strong point guard, averaging 7 assists a game. And not the start you want if you're Ed Cooley.
Turnover against the Wildcats. That one doesn't necessarily as forced as we'll see some of them. There is Ed Cooley, 4th year. The overall record not great, but the program trending in the right direction. They got to the NCAA tournament last year, off to a nice start this season.
Perfect guy for the job. Grew up in Providence, spent his entire basketball career in New England, and he's back home and doing a great job.
Whistle and a foul. Andrew Harrison put the ball on the floor. On the other side, of course, John Calipari here at Kentucky. His 6th season as the Wildcats head coach, and hard to beat here at Rupp.
Well, he really is, and they're going to be hard to beat everywhere this year. It's a juggernaut type of team. 9 McDonald's All-Americans, obviously.
You watch them play early, you watch them in practice, you just wonder who could beat these Wildcats. Towns again with the left hand scores his 2nd early basket.
Well, if you're Providence right now, the key is to just play this game every 4 minutes. You got 10 4-minute games, and you just want to hang around. Give yourself a chance in the second half.
Here's Harris, Fran, on the perimeter. And they do have one of the top scorers in the country. They're going to need a lot from number 23, LaDante Henton.
Well, he's had an explosive start. Nice pick and roll right there.
DeRozier, though, missed the dunk.
DeRozier would have been better off just laying that ball in.
Andrew Harrison in the lane. That's an offensive foul.
And the little ward off at the right hand. Tony Green in perfect position to see that. LaDante Henton, Dave, coming off a great tournament in Uncasville, Connecticut, the Hall of Fame Classic, where he dropped 38 on Notre Dame in the final.
It was an impressive performance against a pretty good Notre Dame team.
Well, no question. And the day before that, they throttled Florida State, a team that I had high hopes for, who has got out of the gate very slowly right now.
Well, Henton at the moment is being guarded by Willie Cauley-Stein, the 7-footer. Which is an interesting matchup here at the start of the game. Well, Providence just running half-court offense. That's another turnover. And the outlet to Harrison. He will lay it in.
This is not the start that Providence needed. If anything, when you're in a street fight with a heavyweight champ, you want to deliver the first punch. They've been unable to do that so far.
This is really the first touch for number 23, LaDante Henton. And he had to give it up immediately. Dunn off the dribble, finds DeRozier, the big man, hits a 3.
He can do that. The transfer from Wake Forest back home in New England. And if he can make some shots, that will stretch Kentucky's defense a little bit. They have so much size.
And the defensive numbers, we'll get into this as the game goes on, so far are just dominating. Poitras from the baseline. Rebound done.
Well, the big thing is they defend the rim so well. The block shot rate is astronomical at about 27%. That means 1 out of every 4 two-point field goals are being blocked on the part of the opponent.
And you might have noticed up off the bench, the second unit, the second 5 getting ready to come in the game. More tough half-court defense here for the Wildcats. Chris Dunn, who's much more of a passer than a scorer. Harris, too strong. DeRozier, though, a nice tap out.
Nice play. Good play by Carson DeRozier. Chris Dunn was a former high school, well, he wasn't a high school All-American, McDonald's All-American. And he's always reminded me a little bit of Gary Payton, big, strong point guard. Not quite the same college numbers to this point because he has nursed some serious injuries.
Had a real hard time staying healthy. What a move by Tyler Harris, attacking the shot blockers at the rim. So after a rough first couple minutes, Providence feels like they're settling in. Down by a point, Kentucky basketball. Cauley-Stein on the block. DeRozier, pretty good defense. He scores anyway.
Very nicely done. Watching practice the last couple days, I think some people would be surprised at how much time Kentucky spends on basic fundamentals. They do a lot of stuff near the paint with their post players offensively. We saw a good example of it right there.
Here's Dunn using a screen and a nice bounce pass. The big man, though, pinned underneath, scores against Towns.
Now, this is a little more like it in terms of the tempo that Ed Cooley wants. Looks like they may have gone to, well, they haven't gone zone yet, but they will.
Aaron Harrison, a little too strong. Rebound Harris.
Expect the Friars to play a lot of 2-3 zone. It was a defense that was very good to them at the end of last season on that great Big East tournament title run.
And against this incredible size and depth down low of Kentucky, you figure that could help neutralize some of that. So far, Cauley-Stein has just been all over LaDontae Henry. Shot clock winding down for Dunn. The crossover move and the pass tipped by Cauley-Stein. Out of the open court, the big man misses the layup.
Chris Dunn needed to drive that ball. He could have gotten to the basket. Stein was so concerned with Henton that he actually played into Cauley-Stein's hands right there.
I mean, I guess in a way you appreciate a kid who maybe is a little too unselfish, because he is willing to pass the ball. He does not often look to shoot. Now he's got a tender ankle, and he's holding his right ankle after that last play. That's not great news for the Friars. Timeout on the floor. We're going to keep it here. 13:42 to go here in the first half. #1 Kentucky at home. 8-7 their lead over Providence. And we do welcome you inside Rupp Arena. Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla. One thing, when we talk to Coach Calipari, he is looking for his team to get challenged. He wants a team to come in here and play well against his #1 ranked Wildcats. So who knows, maybe the Friars will be that team.
Well, I think everybody is looking to see how Kentucky's going to react in a game that goes down to the wire. Keep this in mind. There hasn't been a game this year under the 13-minute mark where they trailed. And it's been in part because of great depth, but also a team that's buying into great defense, Dave.
Yeah, this is a big part of the success of the Wildcats. And you mentioned the shot blocking, Fran. It's been amazing.
Well, when you block one shot every 4 two-point field goal attempts of your opponent, you're basically putting, you know, the bubble, that big bubble that you use to work on rebounding, on the rim. Very hard to score on Kentucky inside because of their great athleticism.
Well, meanwhile, on the other side, the Friars do have a weapon, a guy, LaDontae Henton, who you figure will be able to get some points in this one.
Well, his nickname is Buckets, and he's had that name since 8th grade. He grew up in Lansing, Michigan, All-State 4 straight years. Good player as a freshman, better as a sophomore and junior, and this year exploding as one of the country's leading scorers. What makes him so difficult is he can score in a variety of ways, both in the paint and outside behind the arc.
So the Wildcats with the early 1-point advantage, 8-7 over Providence. We saw some of those defensive highlights, Fran. I mean, Kansas, look, Kansas is an unfinished product at this point. They'll get better as the year goes on. They shot 19% against Kentucky in their head-to-head matchup.
Well, think about this. This is what astounds me. 12 halves of basketball so far for Kentucky. 6 times they held an opponent to 20 points or less in that half. And that does not happen, Dave, without tremendous buy-in from a group that has 9 McDonald's All-Americans. And obviously the big story has been sharing the minutes.
So the blue team was first. They're the starters. The white platoon team comes on now. They had to wait a while for a dead ball. So these 5 check in, and you see the numbers comparison per minute. This group has been in a lot of ways just as productive.
Well, and keep in mind, one of the reasons is they get to play against a tired starting 5 usually. You know, they come in fresh, and meanwhile, right now for Providence, I'm looking at, well, 3 starters. Bentel and Lindsey are in the game, 2 promising freshmen.
Yeah, Jalen Lindsey, who also has been beat up with his ankle. A near turnover. Somehow Providence saves it. They throw a lob, and the finish by Harris.
Oh, you can't do that.
Wide open. Booker, who's been so hot, missed that shot, but an offensive rebound for Kentucky.
There's the 2-3 zone we talked about. This is like having a pretty good fastball, you're man-to-man. This 2-3 zone is a good curveball.
There's Lee with the left hand. Not a great low post score. Missed that look.
This is a reasonably young Providence team with 4 freshmen in the rotation. Eddie Cooley is doing a really nice job of building a solid foundation.
And those freshmen are talented. He has recruited well at Providence. So he's got some of the upperclassmen, the scoring punch with LaDontae Henton, and now some young talented pieces. And we do welcome those of you joining us from that outstanding game in Connecticut. What a win for the Longhorns. Here we are at Rupp Arena, and our first volleyball swat of the game. Not sure Marcus Lee needed to do that. Could have just probably grabbed the ball out of the air, but a spectacular block nonetheless.
This is an 8-footer that goes about 6 feet, and you're right. You know, Marcus Lee, now it was emphatic, but he certainly could have grabbed the possession. But you know what? Message sent. And that's something that we've seen early in this game. Kentucky trying to protect the basket with the great shot blocking ability.
Number 1 ranked team in the country. The Wildcats have been dominant in the early season, but being challenged here in the early minutes by the Friars of Providence. More tough defense here, and somehow Cartwright saves it, but it's a shot clock violation and a Friars turnover.
And right now, Providence playing with 3 of those freshmen we talked about. Ben Bentel, a promising young big guy, didn't recognize that the shot clock was running down.
Kentucky basketball down by 1, 8 minutes into the game. That alone is sort of an upset, the way they have dominated right from the start this year. Booker, who's been red hot, has missed his first 2 shots here this afternoon.
Well, we were at the shoot-around yesterday, Dave, and Ed Cooley is one of those old-fashioned New England hard-nosed guys, and he said, hey, we're going to make this a street fight as much as we can.
The top scorers in the country, LaDontae Henton, who has not been able to get free in the early going. Big man person DeRozier has played well in these first few minutes. Here is Henton with the shot clock winding down. He's going to launch from way outside and hit the 3.
Not a surprise. He's got tremendous versatility in his offensive arsenal. It's a very tough matchup because of all the things he can do on the offensive end.
Kentucky was doing a lot of specific game planning for him earlier this morning, getting ready for this game. Down low, Dakari Johnson back to the basket, draws a foul. So that takes us to a timeout here at Rupp.
Well, we're getting a chance to watch one of the top scorers in the country. Buckets, or as Ed Cooley calls them, Young Buck.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. And Mazda. Conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way.
Really a beautiful day here in Lexington, Kentucky. Sunday after Thanksgiving inside Rupp Arena, where it is packed. Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla, happy to have you with us. The #1 ranked Kentucky Wildcats are here at home and being challenged early by the Friars. Kentucky, Fran, has been so dominant already this year. What do the Friars have to do to have a chance at an upset?
Well, when you're in a 15-round fight with the heavyweight champion, you don't want to get knocked out in the first round. The key is to stay in this game as long as possible and try to play TV timeout to TV timeout. And when you get to the middle of the second half, if you're still in the game, the pressure then shifts to the team that's supposed to be dominating. And so far, Eddie Cooley's team has done that.
Well, they took a punch early. They were down 6-0 right away, and it did not look good, but the Friars have settled down, starting to make shots. The team that won the Big East last year got the automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. Out of the timeout, the sophomore from Brooklyn, Dakari Johnson, makes the first of 2 free throws.
Yeah, this guy looks great. Dakari Johnson has lost a lot of weight, trimmed his body down. He's been very, very productive early in his sophomore season.
And he is the guy down low. He's got some low post moves. He can be a true scorer back to the basket.
Well, I think so. I think in terms of the low post scorer, he may be their best low post scorer. Karl Anthony Towns is the most versatile scorer they have on that front line. Good ball hawking by Tyler Ulis.
Who's going to do a lot of that in his career. Great pass, though, on the freshman. Chukwu lays it in from Chris Dunn.
This kid is 7'1" or so, and they don't expect a lot out of him this year, but watching him practice yesterday, he's got a chance to really develop into a terrific big guy.
Pascal Chukwu. So the Friars again with an answer. They lead by 4, almost halfway through the first half. Down low, Marcus Lee, who is not a great low post scorer. Here's Booker down the lane, layup good.
I think if you're going to play Kentucky right now, you got to make them beat you over the top. And you can't let a guy like Booker, who's so good at knocking down the long ball, get into the lane and shoot that floater.
That field goal shooting excellent for the Friars, because especially Kentucky's field goal defense has been so good in the early going. Another lob and sort of intercepted on the way up there, but a foul against Kentucky.
Well, Chris Dunn is a really good pick and roll guy. And take a look right now. That time is just a good cut to the basket. And nice pass from Chukwu first to Dunn. Good touch right there. Dunn to Chukwu, I should say. This young man is from Nigeria. He went to prep school in Connecticut. And just look at him, 7'2" freshman. You talk about Lindsey, Bentel, Cartwright. It's a very good young group to build with.
Well, they have some athleticism, some of those bodies you figure that could hang with these incredibly talented Kentucky Wildcats.
Well, by the way, as you see the second group come out, we got to give them a new name. I can't keep going blue-white. We're going to come up with a new name today.
Blue-white is a little dry.
Yeah,
a little boring.
I got some ideas for you.
Well, we have a few thoughts potentially for a name for that second unit. The size that you have to deal with when you play Kentucky is incredible.
You see in this 2-3 zone now, you've got to shade Aaron Harrison, #2, who has not shot the ball well in the early going, but that to me is just small sample size. You can't let the ball get in this deep.
Yeah, one dribble. Cauley Stein did miss the shot on a nice rebound attempt by Henton. Now Harris is pinned in the corner, but gets it out of there.
Tyler Harris, the transfer from NC State, and younger brother of Tobias Harris of the Orlando Magic, has really come into his own since transfer. He's a nice player.
Yeah, great basketball family. Channing Frye is his cousin. Again, Chris Dunn had a chance maybe to get to the rim and try to score, and instead turns it over.
When you're a point guard who doesn't look to score, you become easier to guard. The more of a threat Chris Dunn is at the rim, the more open his teammates will be. If I'm guarding him right now, I bluff at him and I get back to his teammates.
And Dunn, who is one of the real talented Friars, is not 100% healthy. He's dealing with an ankle problem. It was questionable whether he was going to play.
Well, think about this, the 2 shoulder surgeries. He's only played in, coming into this year, 40 games for the Friars, 2 years.
Up top, Aaron Harrison elevates, misses the shot. Cauley Stein, offensive rebound.
Back to man-to-man. They'll match up at it. There's too much standing around right now by the white jerseys, you can see.
Well, Anthony Towns trying to post up against the shorter LaDante Henton.
And now back to the matchup.
And Friars being pretty smart about the way they're changing defenses. Poitras with the lob from Andrew Harrison.
Nice cut. Terrific dribble move into the lane. It throws that forward. Poitras able to sneak behind.
Even with all these great athletes around him, Alex Poitras still can really impress you with his pure athleticism. And Bentel, one of those freshmen Fran was just talking about, swinging those elbows. Poitras right in his face playing defense. Dunn going all the way, and he scores off the glass.
Once you establish that with your strength and size that Chris Dunn can do and get to the rim, then the passing becomes easier. Great example right there. I think he realized he overpassed early.
Back to a three-point lead for the Friars. Aaron Harrison with the left hand, no good. Rebound, block shot, but foul call. So another timeout here at Rupp with the Friars, an early three-point lead.
Watch the drive, get behind the defense. Poitras with the finish. And then Chris Dunn, good size, 6'3", built like a tank to the rim. Soft touch.
Seth Greenberg, Steve Weissman in studio. You saw this earlier right here on ESPN2. The finish between Texas and UConn. Jonathan Holmes for the win, Coach.
Jonathan Holmes was 3 for 12 going into that shot. He's 4 for 12 right now. Rick Barnes goes back to his best players. He made a similar shot against Iowa State last year. Longhorns' huge road win at Campbell Pavilion.
Yeah, and they will take on #1 Kentucky on Friday. Dave?
First half at Rupp, and Providence with the three-point lead. 7:17 to go until halftime over #1 Kentucky, a Wildcats legend. Happy birthday to Joe B. Hall, the legendary head coach of this Kentucky program, who is a fixture here at Rupp. His name hanging up in the Raptors here at Rupp Arena. Part of this incredible history. And Fran, part of being in this Kentucky program is inevitable comparisons. When you have a #1 team, where does this team fit in all time with this great program?
Yep, it's so early to tell, but you know, already some comparisons to 95, 96, Rick Pitino's team that went 34-2, turned out 9 NBA players. Coach Hall had a great team in 78, similar size with Roby and Phillips, the great scorer. Gibbons, but there you see, now interesting, they lost to UMass in that old grade 8 tournament up in Pontiac, and then lost to Mississippi State in the SEC championship, went on and obviously won the Final Four. And this team's going to lose, I think, a couple, not many, but it's all about what happens in March for them.
And they do have a very challenging stretch of their schedule, really starting here today, but coming up in the next few weeks. The Wildcats will be tested. Here's DeRozier, who's got the range. He's hit 1 3 already. Henton fighting for the rebound, and I think he got fouled.
Right now, Providence getting a lot of loose balls. They're tipping out missed shots. And they've been more aggressive, and it gets to the, you know, I talked to Ed Cooley about this yesterday. When you are a decided underdog on the road and you have a good team, which they do, you must establish that you're not going to be intimidated and you're going to stay in this game. And that's what they've done so far.
Harris draws the foul, and I think he's been a part of that, Fran. Tyler Harris attacked the basket early. He's made a couple of shots. He has not looked afraid of this fearsome Wildcats front line.
Well, he's a junior, and I really like the way Tyler Harris has improved in his 2 years at Providence. He didn't play much as a freshman at NC State. I think some of it was strength. But the year sitting out, his second year now in the program playing, and he's really done a good job. And you mentioned Tobias and Channing Frye. The Harrises and they're sisters. So Channing Frye is a first cousin to both Tobias and Tyler, and they're teammates now in Orlando, Tobias and Channing Frye.
And both playing well.
Both playing well.
Tobias Harris has turned into a nice NBA player.
Sure has.
Now the Friars are going to show that zone look here against this second unit. We're still working on that nickname for him, but the second 5 for the Wildcats, who are really being challenged, and maybe you might say for the first time all year.
Well, you know, the Buffalo game they trailed at half, but I think for the most part, and this is good. And we heard John Calipari tell his team yesterday, guys, I hope this is a close game because I want to find out what you're made of. I'm not sure I believed it. I'm not sure I still believe it, but if it happens, it's a good thing.
Yeah, we may find out whether he was really telling the truth. DeRozier will hand off to Henton. A step back contested 2. Rebound Lyles. Tyler Ulis, number 3, ultra quick point guard. And a good defensive play by Chris Dunn to steal it away.
Well, that's what Chris Dunn does. He is, when he's healthy, we haven't seen much of that in his career, but he is an elite defender. He's got great size for a point guard. If he could improve his outside shooting, he has a chance to continue to play after college.
The bounce pass, not a good one. Stolen away by Lyles, and then a foul against, well, it's going against Kentucky. I thought that one would be called on Harris, and John Calipari's not real happy about that whistle.
Well, Tony Green had a pretty good look at it and doesn't miss many. Let's take a look now.
Yeah, and he called double dribble, not a foul.
Yep. Tony Green was in the middle slot and had a bird's eye view of that call, and John Calipari really didn't argue it.
4-point lead for the Friars and a timeout for Providence. We'll take a quick timeout ourselves and come right back to Rupp Arena after this.
That's your new boss?
Yeah.
Well, your boss loves the beach.
Really?
She's been to London, Paris, and her son plays baseball.
You psychic?
No, I speak Pandora. He went to Jared.
Celebrate life's unforgettable moments with a fabulous selection of Pandora charms and bracelets, including these charms exclusively at Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry, telling her life story with just a turn of the wrist.
You're good.
I know.
That's why he went to Jared.
Well, back here in Kentucky, ACC Big Ten Challenge. Syracuse, Michigan, Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern. Very interesting game, I think, on both sides on ESPN. Part of a great week of college hoops. I like this one, too. Ohio State and Louisville, 2 top 20 teams in that ACC Big Ten Challenge. That's Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern.
Yeah, one of the outstanding freshmen in the country, D'Angelo Russell, who really needs to be a go-to scorer for Thad Matta, and he has been. And then Montrezl Harrell, who is likely a first-team All-American, the junior in the midst of an outstanding Louisville Cardinal career. And by the way, he signed at Virginia Tech for a guy named Seth Greenberg. Seth left for greener pastures, and so did Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah, Hokies fans may be wondering what if. That's a turnover and a sloppy one for Providence, leading 19-15 with just over 5 minutes to go until halftime.
Now, if there's one Achilles heel for Kentucky, they don't have many, is they don't have a small forward. Their front line in the platoons is basically 3 bigs, 3 bigs. I think
they have so much size that in a way the parts don't exactly fit perfectly.
No, I have always advocated jokingly that you can make trades in college. You know, like you know, maybe Duke would trade one of their guards, Quinn Cook or or Tyus Jones, for a little more size. And obviously, they're not going to do that. Good look.
Marcus Lee fouled from behind. DeRozier has been active trying to protect that rim for Providence, committed the personal.
You know, a lot of people have talked about this young man, Tyler Ulis. Jay Billis has seen him a ton, starting in the Bahamas Champions Classic. He's playing essentially, I guess, you know, I wouldn't say behind Andrew Harrison because they platoon, but I think his greatness as a college point guard will be seen when Andrew Harrison goes to the NBA, because this kid would be one of the best players in the country in terms of his position if he were playing 28, 30 minutes a game, which I think is going to happen in the future.
Well, you see the size. He's not a big kid, but the quickness is elite, and it's not just the passing ability, Fran, but the ability to use that quickness on defense.
No question.
Really a fun player to watch, and it's the challenge for the Wildcats. How do you get minutes, production, keep everybody happy? So far, it hasn't been a challenge. All these kids have bought in, and the Wildcats have played beautifully.
I'll tell you what, yesterday at practice, incredible camaraderie.
Look at Ulis harassing his fellow freshman, Kyron Cartwright. That shot blocked. Cartwright, great defense from the little guy. Ulis leading the break, almost lost the handle.
See, and right now when you look at this team, if you shade the guards and back off the bigs, you know, you don't have a lot of answers. You just don't want this guy to get into the paint.
Ulis does get there and scores.
Yeah. And it's the old story when you play Kentucky. It's like a leaky boat. You can stick your finger in the dike somewhere, but there'll be other leaks that spring when you try to take away some things.
Dunn on the move, finds DeRozier, who draws the foul. So that sends us to another timeout here in Kentucky, and Tyler Ulis very impressive in the first few minutes.
Take a look, young man who grew up in Ohio, finished his career in Chicago, and he's in Lexington.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Jared, the Galleria of Jewelry. Truly unique designs that you won't find just anywhere. That's why he went to Jared.
Steve Westman, Seth Greenberg in studio. Coming up on the Land Rover halftime report, a Texas-sized finish for the Longhorns in Connecticut. Jonathan Holmes stepping up when it mattered most. And on ESPN right now, Kansas and Michigan State. Cliff Alexander, his first field goal of the game. Right now, 53-46. Jayhawks, 7:33 to go in the second half. Dave?
All right, Steve, thank you very much. Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla here at Kentucky, where the Providence Friars not just hanging, they're leading the #1 team in the country by 1. Ed Cooley has done a nice job coming back home to Rhode Island. Rick Barnes, of course, a former Friars coach with that big win for the Longhorns. But Ed seems like a perfect fit. It's not an easy job, Fran. You were an assistant under Coach Barnes back in the day. Can I say it that way?
No, you're right. You know, it's a small state. There hasn't been a lot of great talent come out of there. There have been a few that have been great players, but by and large, Ed Cooley, the perfect guy. It's always been a stepping stone job for the Patinos, the Gillens, the Rick Barneses, but this is really Ed Cooley's dream job. Assistant long time at Rhode Island, Boston College for Al Skinner. Did a great job at Fairfield, and you know what? He's been embraced by the Friar community, and it's a tough crowd. They love their basketball there. It's got rich tradition.
They do. They have tremendous tradition. They've had some of the greatest college players in history come through Providence College.
You're absolutely right. Of course, Dave Gavitt, their legendary coach.
Cauley Stein had it stripped away going up, and that's a foul against the Friars.
In fact, today, Dickie Simpkins is here. He's scouting now for the Charlotte Hornets. Joey Hassett, the radio play-by-play guy. Kevin Stakem. Delray Brooks is in the building. God Shamgod's on the bench. A lot of Friars here today. Harold Starks, Cal Foster. So they love their Friar basketball family.
Cauley Stein rattles the first free throw home. It's not just been Providence off to a good start, 6-0. The coaches have them in the top 25. The Big East as a whole has really been off to an excellent season.
Oh, absolutely. 5 wins over the top 25. Villanova looks like a team that can play with anybody in the country. Jay Wright's got a nice veteran club.
Yeah, it's not just gaudy records for Big East teams. It's some signature wins. What a move, Cauley Stein.
What you love about that, I mentioned it earlier, they spend a lot of time in practice at Kentucky working on basic fundamentals. There's the little guy from behind. I was really impressed with how much time they spend in practice just with basic fundamentals the last couple of days. Watch the lob.
Tip up, no good. Can the Friars get a rebound? Not so far on this trip.
You know, that looked like the shot pass right there. I saw Poitras come out of the corner.
It did. Great look. Towns with the flush. Ed Cooley wants a timeout. Here come the Wildcats.
Now, Willie Cauley Stein. This is a 7-footer now. Watch the up and under. Turns middle and then steps through. Nicely done. Didn't have to dunk it. And then great high-low look. Cauley Stein inside to Carl Towns. And if you're going to pack that zone in, you've got to take away that pass to the middle of the lane because he becomes a traffic cop from that high post.
Yeah, Willie Cauley-Stein, who is playing the most minutes of anybody, still not big minutes, 21.5 per game. And he has had a very solid first half for the Wildcats. We do have a chance to remind you Monday Night Football. The Dolphins playing well, the Jets not so much. 8:15 Eastern on Monday on ESPN for Monday Night Football. These days watching the Jets almost like disaster theater.
Yeah, you rubbing that in on purpose now. You know I grew up a Jets fan.
I know you did. I'm just saying. I feel for you.
It's been hard. It has been hard. Potential coaching change, hate to say it, and high hopes for Rex Ryan.
And a lot of wins under Rex Ryan, but these days the wins are hard to come by.
You see what Mark Sanchez did this Thanksgiving?
It doesn't make him look good. It doesn't.
They tried to go backdoor. Second time tonight they've tried to go backdoor on Kentucky, and Kentucky scouting smelled it out.
I think Ulis has changed this game defensively, and that's a 5-second violation.
You know, he's the littlest guy on a very big Kentucky team. And I think by the end of the season, he's going to be one of the most important. Because of what you said, he changes the game on both ends.
Well, for the moment, he sits down on the bench, but Tyler Ulis has made a huge impact. Look at the turnover numbers for Chris Dunn. He's already committed 7 turnovers in the first half. And this is a very good ball handler, a high school All-American, talented kid. Towns attacking. That's an offensive foul. He can't believe it.
Well, when you have 3 officials out there, you can't. I like the fact that they call this. See, you can't let him get away with that. It's a young player trying to get some things established, and Karl Towns doesn't need to do that. But
he doesn't. He had the step anyway.
Exactly. He'll learn. Well, he's gifted. This kid is gifted.
That's his second foul, so he goes to the bench. At the moment, we don't have the strict platoon, and as games go on, I don't think you're just going to always see 5 on, 5 off.
You know, if I'm John Calipari, there's going to look at this. Look at this pressure.
Ulis again. Poitras. A blocking foul.
There's going to come a point later in the year, and it may not happen till the NCAA tournament, where John Calipari will play who he thinks his best 5 are to close the game out, final 5 minutes. This guy will likely be a part of it.
Kentucky fans sure appreciate the effort. Now on the baseline, another foul. Aaron Harrison knocked to the ground. He'll shoot free throws. 1:31 to go in the first half. Kentucky has trailed for much of this first half. This has been a dominant team in the first weeks of the season, but the Friars have come here to Lexington and are at least challenging Kentucky, but a 3-point lead with free throws coming.
I think right now, Dave, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, 1:31. But we go back to that analogy of the prize fight. Right now, you're in the 7th round. You're hanging around with the champ. You don't want to get knocked out here.
Get back in the corner.
Right, yeah. You don't want to go off down 8-9 and make it really tough to start the second half.
Go into halftime, let your cut man do some work and try to survive.
Exactly, and they have to this point. This would be a big possession.
Dunn is just having all kinds of problems. A 6-0 run for the Wildcats, up by 4. Dunn attacks against Ulis, missed the shot, got his own miss, fouled.
I love the aggressiveness, but I think they're forgetting that they have one of the leading scorers in the country out there. And Willie Cauley-Stein at 7'1" has done a terrific job on Hinton. But I still think you got to get him the ball where he can operate in some space and maybe take Cauley-Stein off the dribble.
2 free throws for Dunn. Makes the first. LaDontae Henton is top 5 in the country scoring, averaging 24 plus per game. He has taken 2 shots in the first half.
One was the 3 and one was the challenge 2.
Well, they have got to get him touches and at least chances to score. Number 4 officially in the country, points per game. Dunn, 2 big free throws for Chris Dunn.
You're in a huge a minute 10 right now if you're Eddie Cooley. They go to the zone again. Got to be aware of Booker.
I think the Friars would love if this was just a 2-possession game before halftime, and that's it.
By the way, Booker's now in there with the Harrison, so they've kind of changed up the platoon a little bit to put another shooter on the floor.
They have situationally John Calipari using his bench a little differently. What a move for Aaron Harrison.
And I know it's been pointed out a number of times this year, but watching practice yesterday, completely different Harrison twins that I saw in high school at times with the body language. It's all been well documented. Andrew Harrison was like an assistant coach yesterday at practice with the younger guys.
I think Ed Cooley wants his Friars to use up a lot of clock here. That's what they're doing. There's Henton with Stein right in his face. What defense? Rebound Lyles.
I think you got to drive the big guy.
Here is Andrew Harrison to his brother. Aaron has it poked away. Clock winding down. Jumper no good. In and out. And the Friars, I think they survived that push at the end of the first half. Tyler Ulis certainly did spark the Wildcats, though.
Well, proof's in the pudding, right? 10 points off turnovers. A number of them forced by the little guy, Tyler Ulis. Terrific job.
Entertaining first half. Kentucky leads by 4. Now Steve Weissman in the studio. It's the Land Rover halftime report.
All right, thank you very much. This is your Land Rover halftime report. We start with a great one from earlier today. Number 7, Texas, and 24th ranked UConn. This one at Gamble and Stores. Second half, Kendall Yancey, no, and Ryan Boatwright. Coach, you say a bad shot's like an outlet pass.
It's like an outlet pass. You've got to stop the basketball. Ryan Boatwright is good in the open court as any guard in the country.
UConn coming off that loss to West Virginia. More from Boatwright. This time on the drive, does a little bit of everything, Coach.
Defensively, you got to force that ball to the screen. Boatwright rejects it, gets in the lane.
Boatwright again, little pull-up. He had 24 points in the ball game. Later, more from Boatwright. It was him and Daniel Hamilton. Rodney Purvis out for UConn. They really carried the scoring. But then in the end, 4 seconds left. Texas down 2. They draw up the play for Jonathan Holmes. Gets off the 3, and there's your winner.
Terrific execution, time and score, special situations. Rick Barnes did a terrific job. He drew up a similar play to beat Iowa State last year. Jonathan Holmes, he was 3 for 12 going into that shot. But Rick Barnes, just like Nick Saban yesterday, stayed with Blake Sims.
Yep.
Rick Barnes stayed with Jonathan Holmes.
You got to stay with your guy. You always say, Coach, when it comes down to these games between ranked teams, the top players have to perform at their best.
Your best player needs to be your best player, and Rick Barnes did a great job. And don't forget the inbounder. Kyle Lambert makes a great pass, but watch the up screen here. Ryan Boatwright gets caught on the wrong side. Daniel Hamilton thinks they're switching. There's no switch. There's the up screen. Great footwork work by Jonathan Holmes. He steps into it, knocks down the 3. Watch the screen right here. Step up. No switch. Right here. Bam, the screen. Boatwright gets caught on the wrong side. Hamilton rips it through, knocks down that big-time game winner. Huge win for Texas on the road against a very good Connecticut team.
Now, you can see Ryan Boatwright went down. He stayed on the court for a little while after that shot. UConn's head trainer telling our Andy Katz that Boatwright has a sprained left ankle. He should be fine. So good news for Huskies fans there. You mentioned the big win for Texas. They've got a big game coming up. Texas taking on number 1 Kentucky on Friday. We're watching Kentucky right now against Providence. And the Friars following your keys for an upset.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about own the tempo of the game. Take Kentucky out of rhythm, and that's exactly what Providence was able to do. By changing their defenses, they kept Kentucky in front of them. They did a pretty good job keeping them off the offensive glass. Kentucky only gets 7 offensive rebounds. The one question I have right now for Providence, they've got to find a way to get LaDontae Henton involved in the basketball game. Interesting coaching move by John Calipari. Willie Cauley-Stein getting matched up with LaDontae Henton. That's a 7-footer, moving his feet, contesting shots, and making it hard for him to get any rhythm looks.
Coach, the fact that LaDontae Henton, a guy who's averaging about 25 points a game, only has 3 right now, and Providence is only down 4, that's got to be good news for the Friars.
Oh, if I'm Coach Cooley, I feel good about my team because the most important thing, the art of an upset. Own the tempo of the game. Own the tempo of the game. And that's exactly what Providence has been able to do by changing their defenses, by making Kentucky have to reset. Now, they've got to keep Kentucky off the glass. And then Hetton in the second half, he needs to make a couple of shots for Providence to have a chance to pull off the upset.
All right, Kentucky up 4 right now, also changing the platoons a little bit, Coach Cal, for the first time this season. Still to come, another NCAA-type tournament matchup, Kansas and Michigan State. This one going down to the wire. We'll break it down for you when we come back.
Welcome back to the Land Rover Halftime Report.
Seth Greenberg, Steve Weissman back with you over on ESPN right now. Good one between Bill Self's Kansas squad, Tom Izzo's Michigan State team. Both have won national titles. Denzel Valentine, he was a key early coach.
Denzel Valentine has improved his three-point shot. He sees over the defense. He's a difference maker for the Spartans.
You talk about the defense, right at Wayne Selden, you said that matchup would be key. He's winning that matchup.
He's Magic-esque in transition.
Ooh, that is high praise, Magic Johnson. Royalty there in East Lansing. Frank Mason, the third, pushing it up. Bucket plus the foul, tied at 23.
Frank Mason's done a really good job of controlling this game, distributing the basketball, and getting Perry Ellis involved.
Well, there's more defense from Sparty, and there is Valentine. 5-point lead for Kansas, but how about the 17-year-old from the Ukraine, Svi Mikhailuk, open for three.
High basketball IQ, great feel for the game, and can shoot the three.
And another freshman, Cliff Alexander. That's his first field goal of the game. He's coming off a 16-point performance. 3-point lead for Kansas late in the second half over on ESPN. Earlier today, Army and Duke. Mike Krzyzewski, he played at Army back.
Looks like he's ready to go.
Yeah, he does. Number 12. He's like Aaron Rodgers. Looking for career win number 990. Of course, he got his first at West Point. First half, Jahlil Okafor, he had 21 points, 8 boards. Then it's Tyus Jones. Wasn't shooting the ball too well, Coach, earlier this year, but 16 points in rhythm.
The difference of this Duke team right now is their ability to defend. Last year, they were 128th in defensive efficiency. Right now, they're 21st.
20-point win for the Blue Devils, improving to 7-0. Will it continue that way, though? They take on Wisconsin in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, 9:30 Eastern, Wednesday on ESPN. Duke has won 13 of 15 matchups in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, but one of those losses came to Bucky the Badger.
Cole, very tough place to play.
This halftime report is presented by Land Rover. Above and beyond. This halftime report is presented by Land Rover. Above and beyond.
All right, news out of college football. Bo Pelini fired as head football coach at Nebraska. He was 66-27. That's the highest win total for a Nebraska coach through his first 7 seasons. Actually, one more than Hall of Famer Tom Osborne had. However, he struggled against top competition. The Huskers haven't won a conference championship since 1999. Bo Pelini did win at least 9 games in each of his 7 seasons in Lincoln. Nebraska 8-17 against ranked foes under Pelini. Live looking now over on ESPN, Michigan State and Kansas. It's a 3-point lead for the Jayhawks with 30 seconds to go.
Kansas has not been great from the line today. Trailers
right now they're at the line, Coach, and
Kansas 16 for 25.
Perry Ellis has been big for Kansas.
Tom Izzo tried to deny the basketball inbounds, taking his man off the ball. You've got to give the foul and try to lengthen this basketball game. The possession before, they got an easy layup for Dawson. He just didn't finish.
All right, 4-point lead. You can see that over on ESPN. Right now, Kentucky, a 4-point lead on Providence. Are you smelling upset? Maybe. This has been the Land Rover Halftime Report.
ESPN's Feast Week, presented by Lowe's.
Welcome back inside Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky. It's the SEC on ESPN as a part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. Started the second half, the #1 ranked Wildcats with a 4-point lead over the Friars of Providence. Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla. Look, Kentucky's so dominant already this year. A lot of that because of their size. They're the biggest team in the country, but it was the little guy who made the biggest impact in the first half.
Well, give Providence credit for controlling the tempo and the scoreboard for much of this first half. And then Tyler Ulis came in and did what he does. He is a game changer on both ends of the floor. Now, one basket he had, but he was a major disruptor of Providence's offense down the stretch of that first half and really did a good job. There's his one basket, but little guy changed the tempo of this game. You see the numbers. Providence struggled down the stretch, but if you're Eddie Cooley, you're in that locker room at halftime saying, see, I told you we could play with these guys. We need 20 more minutes.
Well, Kentucky jumped out to a 6-0 lead. Then the Friars controlled much of that half. They led for better than 10 minutes. Kentucky had trailed for a grand total of like 15 minutes all season coming into this one.
And here's the white unit now starting the second half with Ulis.
That's right. That was a whistle very quickly here, just 9 seconds into the half. A foul against Lee and Kentucky.
See, if I'm with Dante Hinton now, I've got to be a little bit more aggressive. 3 field goal attempts is not what he needs.
And I would say particularly with Cauley Stein on the bench.
And Marcus Lee's a long guy too, but you got to drive those guys. And a year ago, these teams met in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, and Kentucky held Hinton to 7 points, 5 rebounds.
He gets a touch here right away. You know that was emphasized in the Providence locker room.
And you see where Marcus Lee forced him to his right hand. That's good scouting report defense.
Dunn, crossover move against Eula, goes to the basket, missed the shot. Lee grabs the rebound. Good look though for Chris Dunn. Now Dakari Johnson fouled on the way up.
I want you to watch this, Dave. Watch the ball. Let's see where this ball ends up. No, this is Dunn driving and not finishing. But when Dante Hinton has the basketball in the half court, he is a one-arm bandit. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. He's very good going to his left. And so you got to sit on his left hand and make him go right, and that's what Marcus Lee did.
Well, I'm going to tee you up to make that point again somewhere later in this half, because I think it's a good point for a guy who is one of the top 5 scorers in the country right now. Dakari Johnson's got a little thing going at the free throw line. And John Calipari has talked about it. He is not a bad free throw shooter in practice. In the games, it's not been good. Dunn loses the ball, scramble for it, jump ball. Arrow favors Kentucky.
Well, Chris Dunn, who has gotten off to a very good start this year in terms of his playmaking. He's really struggling. He is in between on a lot of plays, not sure when to drive it, when to pull up and shoot the little jumper. And right now he's a little bit out of control, and he needs to settle down if Providence is to win this game.
Well, I'm assuming he's going to be charged with his 8th turnover of the game. This is a guy who's considered one of the better ball handlers in the country. Ulis down the lane. I think that was a pass, although it might have been deflected out of bounds off of the Friars.
Carson DeRosa has done a good job today of banging with these big bodies.
He has. I wasn't sure he could do it. The 7-footer, the Wake Forest transfer, has had some moments this year where he's not played real tough guy basketball. That was one of those sort of lob pass hybrids. No good. Hinton grabbed the rebound. Sometimes with this Kentucky team, you don't know. They have so many guys who can go up at the rim and get it. Dunn pulls up for the jumper. Way too short. Kentucky basketball. It's funny, Rupp Arena is packed, 23,000 plus. Lyles too strong. Cauley Stein in with this second group, but that is out of bounds off of Kentucky. Well, coming up next when we're finished on ESPN2 at 4 Eastern, college basketball, and it's the 3rd place game from Orlando. Dave O'Brien, Dick Vitale will have it for you. Tennessee and Marquette in that holiday tournament.
Oh, Big 12 in a matter of minutes had 2 big wins today. Texas on the road at UConn and Storrs, and then Kansas beating a good Michigan State team in Orlando. Kansas bouncing back. They got throttled by Kentucky at the Champions Classic.
Yeah, it was ugly for the Jayhawks, who are not used to that kind of beating. Here's Lindsey, the freshman. Wild shot way off the glass. Lindsey tracks down the miss, though, off of the carom, and he gets fouled. Got decked by Dakari Johnson.
Jalen Lindsey, a young man from Tennessee. He's a freshman, outstanding shooter, who also nursing an ankle injury. Didn't play against Yale on Friday. They beat a good Yale team, Providence, on Friday afternoon without Dunn and Lindsey. I know it was a game that concerned Ed Cooley, but he felt those guys needed to rest and be ready for this game. And certainly neither one has had a huge factor, been a huge factor in this game so far.
This guy has been. Tyler Harris, step back jumper, no good. Long rebound. DeRozier hustles and gets after it. New shot clock for the Friars. It'll be Cartwright to set things up.
Not Kyron Cartwright, the freshman from Compton, California. He's played lots of minutes so far.
He has not one of the more heralded members of that freshman class, but he's played probably the most of anybody. He went a long way from home to Providence. Shot clock winding down. Friars offense tough going these last many minutes. DeRozier three is good.
Remember early in the game when he hit that three, and we thought that if he could stretch Kentucky's bigs away from the basket, it would certainly give Ed Cooley another weapon, and he's done that.
Well, Providence is hanging around. They're down one. Now more than 3 minutes into the second half. One dribble. Lyles missed the shot. Foul against Towns, going for the offensive rebound. That will be number 3 against him.
You know what? This is a great game plan by Ed Cooley. He could not have drawn this tempo up any better. And we said it at the very beginning. I've coached in games like this as the underdog. All you want to do is get to midway through the second half with a chance, and the pressure then switches a little bit onto the team that's supposed to win and win easily.
When you mentioned a game earlier this year where Buffalo had a lead against Kentucky, and the Wildcats sort of sleptwalked through that first half, but then it happened very quickly. Poitras on the outlet with the dunk finish.
Now that's another unforced turnover, essentially, that leads to an easy run out.
Can't happen against the top-ranked team in the country.
See, right now they're not even locating Hinton in the offense. He's been erased by Willie Cauley-Stein.
Amazing. One of the top scorers in the country, hardly touching the ball. Johnson makes his move with the left hand. And Ed Cooley wants a timeout. 5-point lead for the top-ranked team in the country, and it's getting loud inside Rupp.
Well, Providence has done a terrific job in the half-court defense today, but Kentucky has taken advantage of some sloppy play, and right now they've got a 5-point lead, and the young guy, Dakari Johnson, felt a little quicker around the rim.
We had players return that I didn't expect to return. Somebody came in my gym the other day and said, if you play 7 guys, do you know how good you'd be? And I said, yeah, but what if your son were one of those 3 not playing? How would you feel then? I want to try to do everything I can to make sure these kids all have a chance to eat.
Well, the words of John Calipari, the blue team, the white team, this platoon system, if you're catching the #1 ranked Wildcats for the first time this year, not a strict platoon. You see Coach Cal mixing and matching a little bit. The numbers per 34 minutes, that's how the Wildcats like to track things, just to keep everybody engaged. Hey, look, you're productive even if the total numbers don't look great. But it is interesting how he didn't expect to have this problem. That sort of led to this whole system.
I would say necessity is the mother of invention, because he didn't expect to have Poitras, Willie Cauley-Stein, the Harrison twins back when they all elected not to go to the NBA draft. He had a plethora of riches, and they tried the platoon system in the Bahamas on their exhibition tour. It worked so well that he carried it over. And listen, John Calipari, among other things, is a marketing genius, and he's marketed this platoon system perfectly. I don't expect them to do this in the future, but for this year, he's got it working.
These kids on this talented team have all bought into it. Timeout at Rupp, 5-point lead for the Wildcats. Huge week of college hoops coming up on ESPN Tuesday, 9:30. It is the ACC Big Ten Challenge, Ohio State, Louisville. That's a great matchup. One of the signature non-conference games of the whole season, I think. Duke and Wisconsin, 2 top 5 teams. 9:30 on Wednesday. Then Friday, these Wildcats at home against a very good and big and talented Texas team. But that Duke, Wisconsin game, that could be something else.
Absolutely. You look at these two young guys, freshman Okafor off to a great start. Frank Kaminsky, who has become rapidly over the last 2 years one of the most improved players in college basketball in the last decade. They'll match up a little bit, I would bet. You know, Kaminsky's really Bo Ryan center. Jahlil Okafor very light on his feet for a young guy that size. Great poise. I think he's going to go very, very high next June, if not one, certainly in the top 3.
Some of these Kentucky kids may compete for that top spot. Dunn had his shot blocked. Got the miss back. Still 10 seconds to shoot for the Friars, whose offense is really struggling. Here's Henton attacking against Cauley-Stein. No good. Tip up. Also no good. Rebound Wildcats.
But I like the aggressiveness now. Hinton had to do that with the clock running down.
Now a slip and a fall by Dunn. A whistle foul against Providence. He's unhappy. There's a wet spot on the court, and he just fell right down. 14:45 to go here, second half. It has been a competitive game for a Kentucky team that has not played competitive games so far this year.
Well, they have not trailed in a game with 13 minutes to go or less.
Towns makes his move. The freshman missed the shot.
This is, you know, talking to Ed Cooley and knowing him for a long time, he's got that New England toughness, the grittiness, and he's got his team playing that way.
Well, I think the Friars are happy with the way this game is being played. Their offense needs to pick it up. It's been a while. Henton finds a small opening and airballed it.
Well, you're talking about a 7-1 defender, Willie Cauley-Stein, who moves his feet well.
The lob, Towns lays it in with the foul.
You know, you said it earlier, Dave, when those Kentucky guards drive, sometimes you don't know whether they're shooting that floater. And this starts out looking like a floater, and then watch the little dump-off pass. Side of the rim, nice job by Karl Towns, arguably the best player to ever come out of St. Joe's High School in Metuchen, New Jersey. We've had a couple others that probably in the mix, Andrew Bynum, and then a guy named Jay Williams, who played at Duke University.
Yeah, those are two pretty good ones. But Karl Anthony Towns, super talented. Kentucky on a 7-0 run. They lead by 8.
Let me clarify, by the way. Jay Williams was a hell of a college player.
He was.
So we're just playing with Jay right now. For the National Player of the Year. Karl Towns is, if he gets similar accolades this year, he'll have had a great year.
Cauley-Stein everywhere on defense, suffocating for the Wildcats this afternoon. Dunn to the basket. Dunn layup, challenge, no good. And Kentucky looking to run. Aaron Harrison slows up. Friars defense got back.
That's a better move by Chris Dunn. I'd love to see him continue to go to the rim. That was well read. Pick and roll. Defender went under. He just rescreened.
Harrison, maybe a little contact, no whistle. Rebound Providence.
Danger zone right now for Providence. They need a couple buckets.
One for their last 16, and finally one goes down. Even that from short range was not easy.
Well, Ben Bentel, the freshman, he looks like some of those Friars of old. The Troy Browns, the Michael Smiths, Dickie Simpkins.
He does. He looks the part, that's for sure. Another highly regarded player coming to this Providence program. Poitras from inside the three-point line. Short. Rebound DeRozier, who's playing a nice game.
He sure has. This is another big possession. Just want to get this game down to 4. As Kentucky's white unit gets set to check in.
DeRozier against the freshman Towns. So the senior working on the freshman with the right hand. Rebound Harris. Fouled. Tyler Harris has been willing to get into the lane and at least mix it up with this huge Kentucky team.
Well, last year, his sophomore year, he went for 10-7 in Brooklyn in a game Kentucky won fairly easily.
close to his home. Grew up on Long Island with that basketball family we were talking about earlier. His brother Tobias having a nice NBA career. His cousin Channing Frye has had a long, successful career. There you go. Waiting in the wings.
John Calipari does not call them substitutes. He calls them reinforcements.
Yeah, that's what they feel like.
It's like the cavalry coming over the hill when you think you've... But I got some other names I want to run by you.
I want to see them.
I'm leaning. I'm partial to a couple. These are my names.
You've been thinking about
We're
this.
good too.
That's the one that I like.
I like more guys too. You know.
We're good too.
Co-stars. Who's next? 5 by. If you like these, tweet me at Fran Fraschilla.
Somehow I think the Big Blue Nation may chime in with some other ideas.
Let me tell you something. There are other fan bases that will chime in too. I can guarantee it.
Some potential nicknames we won't be sharing with you over the air.
We're good too. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Lyles on the perimeter. That second unit in. Cauley Stein stays in though, and he made that look easy.
Karl Towns is going to go in the top 3, but NBA scouts, you know, Cauley Stein is an enigma. At times he's Tyson Chandler, other times he's invisible. John Calipari told us yesterday he thinks as good as they are now, they can be even better if he steps up.
Ulis has already gotten a 5-second call in this game. Bento tried to dunk it home, missed it. Here comes Ulis, so quick in the open court. Finds his teammate Lyles baseline. Bad miss. Had a pretty good look. Chukwu, the freshman big man, grabbed the board.
I can't wait to see Chukwu in a couple of years. Pascal Chukwu, 7'2". He moves so well. Bento's going to learn that you got to go in and slam that, and you're not going to get bailed out.
Here's the freshman down low. That kind of cut off but scored anyway.
I'm telling you, he had a move against Yale in limited minutes that really impressed me. And he's done a nice job. I think he's going to play more as the season goes on.
And what could be a rugged Big East Conference. Off to a great start this year.
2-3 zone's been pretty good, Dave, hasn't it?
It has. The Wildcats haven't made a lot of outside shots. Here's a guy who can make them. Devin Booker left his feet, though, and threw the ball away.
Well, if you want size, and I would not know anything about that, you've come to the right arena today. Willie Cauley-Stein with the finish down low, and then Pascal Chukwu. Remember the name. May take a while, but he's pretty good.
Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla here in Lexington, #1 Kentucky with a 6-point lead over Providence about midway through the second half. LaDante Henton of the Friars, one of the top scorers in the country. A.J. English, Andrew Rousey having great years themselves. DJ Newbill, but Henton today against the Wildcats, tough going.
Well, and credit Willie Cauley-Stein, who's been elastic all day with that size and length and athleticism. Only 5 attempts, everything challenged, and watch this one right here. Makes him go left, not necessarily LaDante Hinton's strength. And when you consider the fact that Providence shooting only 30%, Hinton not going, only trailing by 6, pretty good effort, especially on defense for Ed Cooley's team.
If you had told us that midway through the second half, Hinton would have 3 points, I think I would have predicted a blowout.
No, there's no question. And credit Providence's defense, because they have turned this game into you know, a fist fight in the mud.
It just hasn't been pretty. Kentucky, who's got a streak of hitting at least 1 3 in a game going back to 1988. And they have not hit a 3-point bucket. Well, the Friars have defended the perimeter well.
Watch the 3 here. That's a set play.
And Stein was just all over it. Willie Cauley-Stein would not let Henton get any space. Good
nice
look.
look.
And Bento had it blocked from behind by Poitras. Ulis finds in transition Devin Booker. Now Poitras on the perimeter trying to get it inside. Does to Johnson. One dribble. Stein tips it in.
Nicely done. Willie Cauley-Stein patrolling the backside. He smelled that miss, tipped it in. I'll tell you what, Ben Bentel's going to learn a lot from the videotape, because with that body, he's going to learn he needs to play a little bit stronger Against this level of competition, they will. Look at Cauley Stein.
Big man out on the open floor, but he missed the layup. Ulis missed it, and Cauley Stein tried to tip it in. Ulis uses the backboard, and that one finally spins down.
Cauley Stein on the breakaway. Ulis dominating the glass.
That's exactly how we figured it would go down. Now Cauley Stein comes over for the double team. Just simple passes aren't easy against this Kentucky defense.
Lexington Police Department is going to be out here after the game and get Ulis for harassment, because that's about what he's done to Providence today.
He changed the game in the first half. Now Hatton traveled.
A lot of opportunities here, but it started with Cauley Stein jumping the passing lane. Misses. Ulis misses. Ball's tipped around. Ulis stays with it. Hits the short bank.
Now Tyler Ulis with the handle, bringing it up for the #1 ranked team in the country. Being tested today by a very spunky Providence team. It's come on the road. Booker, long way out. Good!
Well, we saw him make 20 straight from a spot at the shoot-around at 9 o'clock this morning.
Hatton does get one away. No good. Rebound Johnson. Ulis loves to run. Poitras layup good. Timeout Providence. It happens fast against the Wildcats.
Watch Ulis, great vision. He lets Lee clear because he knows he's got Poitras trailing. Well done. And then Devin Booker, who came in with a reputation as being an outstanding shooter. You know, he only made one of his first 11 the first 3 games. Since then, he's really caught fire. There you see his numbers. His dad was an outstanding player at Missouri. Melvin Booker, former Big 8 Player of the Year. Great career in Europe. And Devin following suit.
Well, one of the questions, maybe about the only question, you have Aaron Harrison on this team, but coming into this year, James Young was a very good outside shooter. Would Kentucky have enough from the outside? Part of that answer has been this kid.
Well, he's going to play a lot with both units, Devin Booker. We saw it in the first half, and that's where John Calipari, you mentioned it earlier, said, listen, the platoon system is going to be flexible, and when they get into some close games and they see zone, you're going to see a lot of Devin Booker.
Wildcats making it hard for Providence even to bring the ball across midcourt. 9-0 run for the #1 ranked team in the country. Foul on Johnson over the top. Another whistle against the Wildcats, #4 against Johnson. When we're done here this afternoon, following us on ESPN2, it is the 3rd place game from Orlando, Tennessee and Marquette. Both teams, I think, have showed some good things in the early season. Dave O'Brien, Dick Vitale getting ready for that one.
Yeah, BYU transfer Matt Carlino had 38 earlier in the tournament. Josh Richardson, a senior for the Tennessee Vols, young man he's from Tulsa. He's had a really good career. First Conzo Martin and now Donnie Kendall, excuse me.
Here's Dunn into the lane. Bento, the freshman, misses another one from close range.
He'll learn. That's about the 4th easy miss.
Look at the shot blocking ability. Even when they don't get the basketball, they impact everything. Friars can't even score at the rim now. Their offense has been totally shut down. Booker really thought about pulling the trigger on that one. Didn't do it. Ulis lob, and DeRozier sniffed it out, but there's Towns who got hammered. Pretty good play, actually, by the senior big man for the Friars to keep Kentucky from that spectacular dunk. But the Wildcats have pulled ahead by 15.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving.
.7:18 to go in Lexington. We're at Rupp. Kentucky starting to pull away, and Fran really doing it on the defensive end, shutting down the Friars. A big reason why. Willie Cauley-Stein.
Don't you wish you had a 7'2" wingspan in your dreams like I do? Willie Cauley-Stein. He's been outstanding on both ends today. Remember, he's coming off the Ankle injury in the NCAA tournament, missed a lot of the summer. But boy, athleticism abounds, finishing inside. And really, John Calipari told me yesterday, he may be the guy that's the difference maker from us being really, really good and great. They just don't know what they're going to get every night. And they're never going to get anything bad, but when they get great from him, something I think is special. And there's my man, Barry Slice Roberson right there. Assistant coach back at Kentucky with John Calipari. You know, he grew up in my neighborhood. We played in the same schoolyard in Sheepshead Bay. He played at Severian High School where Chris Mullen played. We all were kind of schoolyard guys. And he did a great job at Pittsburgh for Ben Howland and Jamie Dixon, recruited Levance Fields, all those New Yorkers. And great to see him back with John Calipari.
Slice.
Love it. Is that a great nickname?
It's one of the all-time great nicknames and a fun guy to visit with. Even when Kentucky misses free throws, the Wildcats keep possession. Starting to wear down the Friars, it feels like, here in the second half. 7 minutes to go. Providence led for a good portion of the first half. Now away from the ball, a whistle and a foul against Kentucky. And I say foul, it's a 3-second violation. Just an ordinary turnover. Chris Dunn, number 3, talented kid. He's had too many of those in this game for Providence. Most of those have come when Ulis is matched up against Dunn. Here's Harris in the lane. That's a nice move.
Sure is. Hey, this is a good Providence team. They've got a ways to go now to climb back in this game. Haven't shown the ability to score a lot of points versus defense. But you look at Hinton and Harris, DeRosa. Dunn is going to get healthy.
Towns might have gotten shoved a little bit on that shot. There was no whistle.
We've seen Chris Dunn not at 100% today. Jalen Lindsey, the outstanding freshman. We've only seen a cameo from him because of his ankle injury.
Well, the top scorers in the country, LaDontae Henton has been shut down basically. He's the 7-footer. That's a foul against Towns. Well, maybe the Friars have one final push. Still 6:08 to go, down 13. 4th foul against Karl Anthony Towns. One thing about this Kentucky team, we showed the numbers after looking at Willie Cauley-Stein. You cannot look at the raw numbers on this Wildcats team because the point totals, the rebound totals, just sort of in aggregate, they're not going to look all that impressive. So many guys are playing, so each individual, not big minutes.
Well, that's why I said earlier, John Calipari, among other things, because he is a great basketball coach. I'll get into that in a second. But he's a marketing genius because the platoon system, pro day in October where 90 NBA scouts were there to see these guys run up and down, all designed with helping a team that needs to be unselfish this season, get them to understand it's not about the numbers because NBA teams know a lot about these guys individually.
Isn't it interesting, too, another whistle against Providence. Coach Cal, maybe more than any other coach or as much as any other coach, has embraced the advanced analytics, the stats. Ken Pomeroy would love talking to Coach Cal because he loves the efficiency numbers, the per 40 minute, the percentages. That's how he sells his kids on, hey, the overall numbers may not look big, but you're doing a great job.
Exactly. All part of the plan.
Harrison, 3. He's had a relatively quiet start to this year after the monster NCAA tournament.
And I think some of it is just, you know, small sample size, coming in shooting only 25%. 7 of 28 before today. But Aaron Harrison proved last year in the NCAA tournament that he's impervious to pressure.
Yeah, I'm not sure we've ever quite seen anything like the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, the Final Four game, the game-winning threes at the end in all 3 of them. Dunn rattles home the front end. Providence in the bonus for the final 5.5 minutes. It was something else. A kid who had his ups and downs as a freshman, but just came to life on the big stage.
Well, the team did.
Yeah.
You know, the team was mercurial would be a word I would use. They were hot and cold all year, and then at the end of the year, what you got to give them credit for is how much poise they played with you know, the first tournament team ever to win 4 straight games by 5 points or less. That doesn't happen by accident.
They were the youngest team in the country last year. They're still one of the youngest with all the freshmen, but they have experience.
This feels like an old Kentucky team.
Yeah, this group of old guys for the Wildcats out there.
A couple juniors, couple sophomores.
Here is the other Harrison. Andrew launched one up. Not a great shot. Dunn has it stolen away, and Andrew dunks it home. They took a questionable shot and made up for it with hustle and defense.
That's why I mentioned a year ago, a lot of us, and I was in that mix, that, you know, weren't sure about whether they could be great teammates. And, you know, watching practice yesterday, watching them play early in the year, I don't think there's any question they both matured. And the effort level is really good.
That was nearly a travel and a turnover. That is a turnover. A steal by Andrew. Cauley-Stein mishandled the lob. He was ready to dunk. This place was ready to explode. Out of bounds, though.
We said this at the very beginning. Take a look right here. Just what's most impressive, even despite that turnover, we said at the very beginning of the game, the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense has been overwhelming.
It's suffocating.
Yeah.
And by the end of a game, the other team just is worn out by it. Every pass, every dribble is contested. Every shot, even from point-blank range, is a tough shot against these Wildcats. You think of that defense they had a couple years ago when they won their national title with Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Cauley-Stein not going to miss that one. Man, way up above the rim.
And they worked on that yesterday, Providence, about being able to play that big guy in the high post. And that's one they'll adjust to when they break down the videotape.
Cartwright, they're just giving him the 3. He'll take it and miss it. Rebound saved off of Kentucky, so it remains Providence basketball.
Well, take a look right here. Willie Cauley-Stein, if you don't guard him, he's going to turn you into a poster.
Seth Greenberg, Steve Weissman in studio, leading you up to Marquette and Tennessee. Coach, that guy needs to get the ball.
Steve Wojciechowski's going to have to figure out a way to get my guy, Matty Basketball, freed up for some jumpers against that Tennessee zone.
Carlino averaging 26 in the Classic. Back to Lexington.
Dave Fleming, Fran Fraschilla here. Okay, we promised we were going to take John Calipari's lead and not obsess over the raw numbers, but here they are, the breakdown of these two platoons.
Yeah, I mean, pedestrian when you look at them, and yet they have a 17-point lead. So, you know, I think that's the whole sales job, really, of getting everybody to buy in. Good set play right there.
Henton off the inbound play, missed the shot. Cauley-Stein, maybe another one. Harrison dunks it himself.
Harrison said, I got to get my numbers up.
Forget the per 40-minute stats.
Yeah.
I want some points. Well, it's amazing. The Friars were a very game opponent coming here into this hostile environment, and yet they're down 19 with 3 minutes to go.
Well, big thing is 18 turnovers. A lot of those have led to runouts. I think that's 23 points now. Off turnovers.
Wildcats fans thought that was a clean block, but it's a foul. So the Friars to the free throw line. ESPN's Journey to the Tourney, presented by Sonic, a season-long spotlight, games that will impact the tournament. And I think this one could. Duke, Wisconsin will match up on Wednesday, 9:30 Eastern in that ACC Big Ten Challenge. And Fran, when we talk about the Journey to the Tourney games, the whole idea is, hey, along the way, there are games that the committee is going to point to in particular that will impact seeding, where a team goes, how they're slotted in the tournament. Wisconsin, Duke, I mean, that very well may be the difference between a 1 and a 2 seed, something like that. Who knows?
Or a higher 1 seed, because at this point, I think both teams look like they could easily be 1 seeds. You know, a guy that's really improved for Wisconsin is Nigel Hayes. They're starting the big lineup, Decker, Hayes, Kaminsky, and Nigel Hayes is really impressed me. He worked on his jump shot this summer. He's multi-talented offensively.
Yeah,
Really,
big-time player.
Yeah, no question.
He's a kid who could hang with the Wildcats athletically.
Well, that whole front line camp, you know, and that was a heck of a game in the semifinal of the NCAA tournament between Wisconsin and Kentucky, and I think you may see that matchup again at some point.
Feels like it. There's a three on the way. Aaron Harrison missed that one. Lyles tracked down the rebound. Aaron, a pass. Johnson, the plug.
Well, that's the other thing about the platoon system, the willingness to play for your teammates, and perfect example right there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about earlier. From our perspective, you sit courtside, and it's hard to tell sometimes whether it's a shot or a pass. I think these big men for the Wildcats, maybe at times it's hard for them to tell. You have to be aware at all times.
Well, they throw lobs every day in practice, if you think about it. I mean, this is, you know, you're talking about not only size but athleticism, guys that do play above the rim. And so, you know, if you're a guard playing in this system, why not? And easy offense.
Yeah, Coach Cal has to be pleased with the defensive effort again today. It is a big day in the Calipari household. It is his wife's birthday. Earlier this morning, we were with the coach when he was getting ready to send out the tweet, and it made us laugh. Today is my wife's birthday, but before I make it official, today is November 30th, right? Happy birthday, Ellen, and the story from last week.
There's a backstory about him tweeting out the wrong birthday greeting to his daughter.
He said happy birthday to my daughter, and it was a day early. And he took some grief for that.
But you know what? There's a backstory he didn't want us to tell. It wasn't necessarily his fault. It was somebody else in his family's, right?
Yeah, but anyway, happy birthday, Ellen.
And it meant, obviously, when you can take a shot at John Calipari, he's like a sitting duck.
He is.
Because he's, you know what, I said this many times. He's the perfect coach for Kentucky because the fan base here loves their team so much. They want to love their coach. And John basks in the limelight.
Yeah.
And he wears the limelight like a $3,000 suit. And it's been a great marriage. He said to me yesterday after the film session, hey, I hope they fire me. I'll just take my money and leave. I said, unfortunately, you have to keep coaching here. And I think just because of the day-to-day pressure of the great expectations and just a great fan base here.
I think all the success he's had, you may have to update that line. $3,000 suit, maybe have to go up to $5,000.
Well, I don't know what a $3,000 suit looks like, but I know John does.
Well, final 2 minutes plus here. Providence, I think they can be real proud with the way they came out and competed against this powerhouse team. But ultimately, really the story, the defense just suffocating. Towns kind of had a hard time catching that one and then missed the layup. So he's not going to be thrilled with that. He will shoot free throws.
Well, Providence is going to learn some lessons today. They're not going to turn the ball over like they did. Remember, Chris Dunn hadn't had a great day today, but he's playing on a bad ankle. They weren't sure he was going to play. We mentioned the young freshmen and how good they are going to be in the future. Bento missed some easy shots he's going to make as time goes on. He's 1 for 5, and I think he missed 4 point-blank shots.
And you saw the shooting in the second half. Providence 4 of 23. They missed their last 5 in the first half. So you're talking about a long stretch where it's just hard to buy a basket, and a long day for that guy, LaDante Hinton, who has a real chance to be the Big East Player of the Year this year with the numbers he's going to put up.
You know, I mentioned the idea of it being a prize fight, and I think this fight went 10 solid rounds.
Yep.
And then we saw a technical knockout, but Kentucky was pushed and extended a little bit more than we've seen in most of their first 6 games previously.
Ultimately, those punches, the cuts just took their toll. Providence just got worn down in the second half.
You mentioned Ellen Calipari, and you think of the coaches' wives. Eddie Cooley's wife, Maris, is on the trip today.
She worked hard over Thanksgiving.
53 people she fed, didn't she?
That's a big number. Cartwright back outside. Shot clock winding down. He launches. I guess he got a piece of the rim. I was blocked off. So the follow, foul, free throws for the Friars and their talented young player, Chukwu. Well, the guy from Rhode Island, there she is.
Yep, she was busy the week of Thanksgiving. You think about it, a lot of these all over the country, kids who can't get home for Thanksgiving because they're in the middle of their season and they live a little bit of distance. And it's nice to know you have a home-cooked meal when when you recruit players, and I did this for 23 years, you talk about family, and we're going to be a family, and we're going to look out for each other. And coaches' wives are like moms away from home, and sometimes they're a good shoulder to cry on, provide a good meal, and well, it's a thankless job.
Maybe sometimes the kids would rather talk to her than him.
Oh, there's no question. No question.
Ulis had it blocked from behind, gets it right back from Marcus Lee. Well, the Wildcats, it's not going to be easy, Fran, in these next few weeks. They make it look easy at times, but Texas is coming in. And I think the Longhorns at least can hang with Kentucky with their size.
Yes, I mean that's going to be that's going to be a terrific battle of maybe the two best front lines or three best front lines in the country. Throw Wisconsin in there as well.
Ulis runner goes.
Duke's front line isn't bad with not only Okafor, Justice Winslow has been outstanding, and Neil Jefferson. So good battle for Kentucky.
Yep.
Texas without Isaiah Taylor. Broken left wrist. That'll be probably a month in the healing.
Still got a win on the road even without him today in Stores. Impressive for the former Providence coach, Rick Barnes. That ball knocked away. Poitras is just going to hold it up, and Kentucky with the shot clock off will watch the final seconds tick off here at Rupp Arena. Well, it was not spectacular. We saw some dunks, some lobs, some individual spectacular plays, but Coach Cal's team, they had to gut it out today against Providence. Ultimately, they end up coasting to a 20-point win.
We expected excellent defense from Kentucky. We saw it. Lot to learn for Eddie Cooley's young Providence team. Some promise. And picked fifth in the Big East. And they've shown already early in the year at 6-1, they got a chance to be very good.
Yeah, can exceed those expectations, I think. The deep Wildcats, though, end up with the victory. Coming up next on ESPN2, our college basketball coverage continues. The third-place game from the Orlando Classic. Tennessee and Marquette. Kentucky gets the 20-point victory here at Rupp. For Fran Fraschilla, Dave Fleming saying so long from Rupp. We will come back, though, live with Coach Cal. First to the studio, we'll join Steve Weissman.
All right, thanks a lot, Dave. Josh Richardson getting ready to go about 7 minutes from tip here. Marquette, Tennessee. It is the third-place game in the Orlando Classic. And, boy, we had a great one in Orlando earlier today as we welcome you into our college basketball studios alongside the coach, Seth Greenberg. In Kentucky, a 4-point lead at the half. Providence was hanging in there. And in the end, Kentucky, they're just too big, they're too strong, and they play well as a team.
Providence did a great job in the first half controlling the tempo of the game and getting Kentucky to react to them. But to me, the thing that makes Kentucky so good is they're so hard to score against. Think about this. Willie Cauley-Stein. Willie Cauley-Stein, he's a 7-foot post player. He's guarding LaDontae Henton on the perimeter, in a stance, contesting shots. They are so connected defensively, and they've got lockdown defenders almost at every position. And then offensively, they share the basketball. They play for the good of the group. There's no selfishness. It's not the blue platoon versus the white platoon.
Right.
It's Kentucky basketball playing together, playing for the good of the group. Really impressive.
You mentioned Willie Cauley-Stein guarding LaDontae Henton. Henton, the leading scorer for Providence, about 25 points a game, held to just 3, 1 of 8 shooting. Last year when they played, they held him to 1 of 4 shooting, just 7 points. So really they focused on the one guy for the Friars, took him out of the game, and from there, I mean, they're just more talented.
And the platoon system, I think it wears you down. I think what happens is, you've got fresh bodies coming at you every single possession, and Tyler Ulis did a great job of putting good pressure on the basketball when Kentucky was struggling a little bit and created some easy offense just by good ball pressure.
All right, let's go back out to Lexington now. Dave Fleming and Fran Fraschilla have Coach John Calipari with them. Happy birthday to your wife, Coach.
Wait a minute, is this November 30th? Please tell me it's the 30th.
We got on you a little bit at the end of the game there for your Twitter game from last week and this week. Congratulations. Happy birthday to Ellen. She deserves the
Good
recognition.
woman. She's a good woman.
Yeah.
She deserves putting up with you.
Oh, my God. She's
sure.
sainthood. Believe me, it's sainthood.
How about this game today? I thought your defense ended up being the difference in this game. And the little guy, you got this big team, biggest team in the country, Tyler Ulis, just changed things for you.
I told him after, I said, I've never seen a guy change a game like he did when he walked in. Now, then I said, wait a minute. I've had 2 other Chicago guys do it. Anthony and Derrick Rose. They did the same kind of thing. They just go change it in different ways. But you have to understand, Andrew played well, too. He had 4 steals, 5 assists in 20 minutes. I'm happy that Alex played better. I tell you, Willie Cauley, come on now, he guarded.
That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's a 7-footer guarding a guard, really.
Yeah, I thought he might have changed the game in the first half because your guys, we were at the film session yesterday. You had a lot of respect for this kid, Henton, but he's like Elastic Man. And I bet you're looking, how much are you looking for him to be a difference maker on this team?
Well, both on offense and defense. Now, they could not guard him, and he was 3 for 3 in the first half, but he doesn't, force that issue, which may be good for this team, but I don't think so. Carl's still learning. Carl keeps fading away. You can't not make a fadeaway. Will they ever call a foul on a fadeaway?
No.
So I got fouled. You faded away. They didn't call it. Dakari didn't bring it early, and he brought it late. But that's what this thing's about when you have this many guys that respect each other. But it's about energy. We did not start the game with the kind of energy we needed. And then that white group came in and changed it. We still didn't get up, but the energy changed. And then eventually we kind of wore them down.
Well, we'll let you go enjoy a birthday dinner tonight. But congratulations. Nice performance by your defense and another win.
Thanks.
Coach Calipari here at Rupp. For Fran Fraschilla and our crew, so long. Kentucky beats Providence by 20.